The retirement planning spreadsheet has been updated to provide a command button that will reset all spreadsheet values. In this example, a user has entered his personal values in the yellow cells. To reset the spreadsheet to 0 values, simply click the Reset Values command button. After the reset, the spreadsheet will display default values for date of birth, age starting work, retirement age, and age at death. Retirement age and age at death are set to the same value to force the monthly saving percentage in the green cell to 0. Financial Planning for Retirement is a Microsoft Excel 2007 macro-enabled spreadsheet that estimates retirement funding needs. The model uses user profile variables, which are entered in the yellow cells, and computes a monthly target retirement savings goals based on net after-tax income. The model then predicts the size of a nest egg retirement account needed to fund retirement goals. The retirement nest egg amount in turn predicts the monthly retirement savings rate required to fund the retirement, as well as the net target take-home pay needed to support that funding rate. The spreadsheet is a sophisticated modeling tool that reasonably predicts retirement planning needs based on a wide range of scenarios. Predicted results are based on a number of user-specific variables as influenced by a number of economic environmental variables. User-specific variables include date of birth, age starting work, retirement age at death, interest rate earned on retirement savings, participation in defined benefit pension plans, participation in Social Security, and target monthly income desired when retired based in current dollars. Those variables are further influenced by estimates for average annual inflation rate and average annual Social Security cost of living adjustments. The spreadsheet predicts a mandatory monthly savings rate based on your net after-tax income. The prediction is a strict function of the number of years you live after starting work versus the number of years worked. The predicted mandatory monthly savings rate is predicated on the assumption that there will be absolutely no breaks throughout your entire working career. This assumption also applies to all the other predicted values on the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet predicts estimated monthly retirement funding needs based in retirement year dollars. The monthly retirement funding need is offset by Social Security benefits and defined benefit pension plan benefits, yielding an estimate for the monthly amount that needs to be drawn from a private retirement savings account. This monthly withdrawal amount is used in turn to predict the size of a required retirement nest egg account. The nest egg account in turn predicts the monthly amount needed to fund that account over a working career, as well as the monthly take-home required to support that savings rate. To use the model, first enter your date of birth. I'll enter 1982. Then I'll use the Tab key. Enter the age you expect to start work. We'll enter 23. This assumes 4 years of college plus 1 year of graduate work. Tab key. Enter the age you expect to reach before you pass away. I'll enter 90. Click in the retirement age cell. Enter the age you expect to retire. We'll enter 70. Click in the full Social Security cell. Enter the amount of money you would expect to receive from Social Security if you receive full Social Security benefits. We'll enter $2,000. Click in the monthly income wanted field. Enter the amount of monthly income you feel you will need to meet your retirement goals. For this example, we'll enter $5,000. Use the Tab key. We'll assume that annual inflation is 0 and that cost 0 inflation is expected. There will be no Social Security cost of living adjustments. Furthermore, we'll assume for purposes of this example that you will not be a participant in a corporate-sponsored defined benefit pension plan. Finally, because there's no inflation, we'll assume that your retirement nest egg will not realize any net after-tax interest rate. Based on the values entered so far, the model predicts that the user will need to save virtually 30% of their after-tax income each and every month throughout their working life. In this case, for 47 years. Because they believe they'll need $5,000 at retirement using current dollars, and that Social Security will provide $2,000 of that, they will need a nest egg that will let them withdraw $3,000 per month during their retirement years. At 0% interest, that nest egg needs to be $720,000. To fund that size of a nest egg, the user will need to save $1,277 each and every month throughout their 47-year career. Because they're going to be saving 30% of their after-tax take-home, their take-home pay needs to be at least $4,277. Let's assume that there will be annual inflation, and accordingly, our retirement savings account will earn interest while we are accumulating it. We'll assume that annual inflation will run 3%, and that we'll also receive a Social Security cost of living adjustment. Those cost of living adjustments rarely match annual inflation, so we'll assume a 2% COLA. Finally, let's assume that our retirement nest egg actually earns interest, and we'll say 4%. We haven't changed any of our basic values, so the model still predicts that we need to save 30% of our after-tax income to meet our retirement needs. However, we thought that we would need $5,000 when we retire in 2010 dollars. Allowing for 3% inflation, that means we're going to need almost $17,600 per month to give us the same purchasing power. The Social Security benefit we'll receive when we retire, increased by annual cost of living adjustments of 2%, will be $4,600 of that. That means we'll still have to be able to withdraw $13,000 per month from our personal nest egg. Accordingly, our nest egg will need to be $4,270,000 in size. That's a big number. In order for us to fund that, we're going to have to save just about $2,572 per month. That means we're going to have to be able to take home $8,617 each and every month during our 47-year working career. Needing to save $4,270,000 over a 47-year career seems mission impossible, but the number is absolutely accurate. It's easy to verify. Let's click in the retirement age cell and assume that we retire the same year we die. That'll be at age 90. We hit the Enter key. The model now says we don't need to save anything every month to meet our retirement goals, and we won't need any retirement nest egg account. That's because we won't be spending any of our golden years in retirement. To take the validation one step further, let's assume that Congress does away with Social Security and we don't get any. So instead of $2,000 a month, we get 0. We still don't have to worry about saving for retirement because we're going to die the same time we retire. Let's return the retirement age to 70. Note that we're back to having to save 30% of our take-home pay, but look what happened to the size of our nest egg. Because we don't receive any Social Security, we'll have to have more money at our disposal when we retire. Accordingly, our monthly savings goal goes up, as well as the after-tax take-home pay to support that savings rate. This spreadsheet is macro enabled and includes a macro that, when run, will return all values to 0. To use the macro, use Alt F8 on the keyboard. The macro is called Reset to All Zeros. With that macro selected, click the Run command button. And the spreadsheet has been reset. Living longer in retirement than originally estimated can have profound effects on your retirement financial plans. Let's click in the age of death and change it from 90 to 100. Enter key. Note the material increase in the required size of the retirement nest egg, the monthly saving rate, and the take-home pay rate. This is strictly due to the fact that living longer means that we'll be living in retirement for more years than before. In this example, we still work the same number of years, we will be retired for a longer period of time, and our mandatory monthly savings rate as a percentage of net after-tax income goes up substantially. Retiring earlier while living longer can further compound the challenges of funding retirement needs. Let's click in the retirement age cell and change the retirement age down to 62, a typical early retirement. Note that the mandatory monthly savings goal as a percentage of after-tax income has gone up further. The required balance for retirement nest egg, monthly savings rate, and target take-home pay have also increased. However, the estimated monthly amount needed to meet retirement needs based on current dollars has gone down noticeably. That's because we retired earlier, and the value indicated here is based on the effect of inflation over a shorter period of time. The values for Social Security are based on your full Social Security retirement age. That value is indicated in the lower left corner of the spreadsheet. Your full Social Security retirement age is determined by your date of birth. If we change date of birth to 1950, full Social Security retirement age reduced to 66. If we change date of birth to 1940, it's further reduced to 65. Under current law, you can retire early and draw Social Security. Early Social Security retirement age is 62. If you are below your full Social Security retirement age when you retire and claim Social Security, you will realize a reduction in the benefit that you'd normally receive. The penalty for early withdrawal is 25% of what would normally be your full Social Security benefit. The penalty will last your entire life. The penalty factor is taken into consideration in the model. Let's enter a value for a full Social Security benefit. We'll say $2,000 again. Enter key. Now let's change our retirement age. Let's change this individual's date of birth to 1960. Their full retirement age is 67. Now let's change their retirement age to 65. Note that their full benefit from Social Security is $2,000 before allowance for cost of living. However, the benefit that they will receive is only $1,500, a 25% reduction. We'll do another practical example. We'll change date of birth to 1982. Enter key. We'll presume that we're going to have inflation. In this case, we'll say inflation is going to run 4% a year. The full Social Security benefit for someone in the year 2010 is going to be about $2,000 a month, and that's on the basis that they had a fairly well-paying professional life. Cost of living adjustment for Social Security, we're going to put it at 2 points. That's about all we're going to expect right now. Age, starting work, is going to be 23. We're going to come out of the box strong. Retirement age, we're going to say we're going to work till 70. And age of death, we're going to live a long time, 100 years. Enter key. Monthly income, when we retire in current dollars, I need 5,000 a month to hold my own. Just what it takes. Enter key. I have no defined benefit pension plan. They all went bankrupt. And as far as a realistic interest rate on my earnings, I'm not going to kid myself. If I can see 4 points, I'm going to be happy. All the values are there. Now we can take a look at the scenario. Let's briefly review the numbers we entered. I'm going to use the enter key, which will take me out of the date of birth field and automatically sends me to the annual inflation field. We're estimating that annual inflation is going to average throughout this entire scenario analysis 4% a year. That's probably pretty accurate based on historical behavior of the U.S. economy. I'll use the enter key again. The full Social Security benefit predicted here at $2,000 a month is pretty much dead on. It's based on current law and current payments. And that again is based on someone who was a high earner for enough years that they credited their account for maximum earnings for the required number of years to get the maximum benefit. Enter key again. Takes me to the Social Security COLA field. This again is probably there, accurate wise. Generally speaking, the COLAs being offered are about half the annual inflation. That's because they don't like to count a lot of stuff. Really, in my humble opinion, the COLA should be greater than annual inflation because the people on Social Security get clobbered in areas that the average, American doesn't, particularly in healthcare costs. Anyway, enter key again. Age starting work. Again, I believe this is realistic for someone that graduates high school, goes to college for 4 or 5 years, and then starts working at a real job. And the age start of work should also be the age starting to save for retirement. Okay? Enter key. Retirement age, again, I think people that are born in the 80s or later are going to have to work till 70, one way or the other. The current law says you can retire and typically from a private plan and get 65, at 65, maybe a little earlier. Social Security max is 67, and that's just the way it is. Enter key, age of death, I think 100 is realistic, personally, for a lot of people. Enter key. We jumped over to the monthly income desired field. If you think about it, 5,000 a month, and again, this is being stated in current dollars, and this is 2010. $5,000 a month grosses you 60 grand a year, and this is the amount of money you're going to get from all sources, and we'll say Social Security, private pension plans or savings. $60,000 doesn't buy you a very luxurious lifestyle in today's economic environment. Enter key. Defined benefit pension plans. These are the traditional corporate sponsored plans. They're going extinct at Mach 1. All the ones I've ever had have gone bankrupt or been shut down with no money left. So I think most of us can kiss that guy goodbye. And finally, using the enter key, we jump to the estimated average earnings on retirement savings throughout our entire working life. I'm saying here that if you got a great investment portfolio and you earn 4% net after tax on that, that is to say right now we're saying it's equal to the inflation rate, you're doing very well. So that's our plan, that's our scenario, and now we'll take a look at some numbers. I need to emphasize again that the model assumes that once you start work, you work continuously and save continuously for your retirement. There's no allowance for breaks. If you take a sabbatical or lose a job for even a month, this model will not be accurate any further. If you end up over your career being unemployed for accumulated extended period of time, the effects on your retirement plans will be dramatic. For example, let's suppose that over your working career, which theoretically starts at 23 and ends at 70, that you experience 7 years of total unemployment. That seems like a lot, but that could be as few as 3 or 4 jobs in an environment where unemployment in the country is high and it's really tough to replace a job. So the way to treat that is to change the age you start work. If we have 7 years over our lifetime of not working, change the start work age up to 30. That will give us a reasonable approximation of the effect on our planning of what we have to do to save for retirement. Note that the monthly percentage of savings went up a couple of points. The big change, however, happened down in the monthly payment that we had to put away to fund the retirement. Remember, we're going to be starting later and having fewer years to put it away, so we went from $9,000 and change to $13,000 per month based on the inflation and Social Security scenarios we're currently working with. And again, this assumes that we're willing to live off of $5,000 a month in 2010 dollars when we retire. That's going to translate to $26,753 every month. This new simplified scenario assumes that we'll be entitled to receive a Social Security benefit when we retire. Let's take a look at what would happen if Social Security was done away with. We'll click in the Social Security field and enter 0. The model still is based on the fact that we think we'll need $5,000 per month in 2010 dollars when we retire in 2052. Again, there's no inflation affecting these numbers. However, note the material change in the required size of our private retirement nest egg, as well as the amount of monthly savings we'd have to put away in the nest egg to fund that account size. In turn, the amount of take-home pay we'd have to be earning in order to fund that savings amount has also gone up materially. In essence, this particular scenario depicts what would be the case had George Bush been successful at privatizing Social Security several years ago. Considering what happened to market values in the last couple of years, the results for all of us would have been a disaster. All of the scenarios reviewed so far contemplate a need for $5,000 per month in current dollars. One aspect about this is whether or not the $5,000 was taxable or tax-free. If presumed tax-free, that would equate to approximately a $100,000 gross taxable income. That is well above the national average of income. Accordingly, it would be more accurate to presume that the $5,000 targeted is really pre-tax. This would equate to $3,500 after tax for the average American. So let's change the target income to $3,500. $3,500 a month is worth $42,000 a year. That's a pretty good income level, and for most people is more than enough to provide a comfortable, if not luxurious, retirement. Now, the Social Security system has not been privatized yet. So let's plug back in the amount of money expected from Social Security. In this case, $2,000 as a full 2010 benefit. Using a more realistic monthly target goal plus Social Security greatly reduces the need for the size of a nest egg. This is a good time to briefly review the current Social Security system. Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system. That is to say, current Social Security taxes, in theory, go to pay current Social Security benefits. The current Social Security tax rate is 15.3% on gross wages. Although there's an upper limit of about $120,000, Most people will pay Social Security tax on everything they earn. In our current situation, the Social Security tax rate of 15.3 is far greater than needed to actually pay the benefits that are currently being paid. In fact, a 10% Social Security tax rate today would cover all the current Social Security beneficiaries. The difference actually flows into the general treasury of the federal government. They receive the money, issue T-bills into the Social Security Trust Fund, but otherwise they spend the money. So basically, the federal government, which is us, borrows money from us in the form of excess contributions, spends the money on things unrelated to Social Security, and gives us an IOU which says we have to pay ourselves back in the future. There's no way that can work. You can't borrow money from yourself and pay it back with money you've never had. Anyway, we're currently paying 15.3% to cover Social Security benefits. On the other hand, we're also being told we should save 40% of our after-tax income if we need to make up the difference to fund the retirement plan nest egg needed to give us the difference between what Social Security pays and our monthly income goal, which in this case is $3,500. To be more explicit, 40% of our net take-home pay is $957 per month, or $11,484 per year. Our $3,500 retirement goal is presumed to be the same as a $60,000 gross salary. We're paying 15% of that into Social Security anyway, so that's another $9,000 of tax. If we add the Social Security tax we're already paying to the amount of money we'd have to stash away in a retirement nest egg, the combined total is approximately $20,500 per year. On a $60,000 gross salary, that equates to 34% of gross income. Let's look at that again. We are currently required to fund a retirement system at the rate of 34% of our gross income. That's a really large percentage. And again, we're currently paying a 15.3% Social Security tax in return for receiving $2,000 a month, which would be funded by a 10% tax, with the difference of 5.3% of that revenue just flowing into the general treasury. Let's modify our scenario and raise the amount of Social Security benefit to equal what we really need in retirement. So instead of $2,000, we'll make it $3,500. According to that, we don't have to worry anymore about saving anything. So the question is, what tax rate would we have to charge on wage now to fund $3,500 a month instead of $2,000? If we did this in such a way that we only brought in the money necessary to fund the $3,500, that is to say, no secret excess that flows to the general treasury, then a 17.5% Social Security tax rate would fund all current beneficiaries. 17.5% is about half the tax rate that we're currently paying Social Security and privately to fund retirement. Even if we assume that the Congress is not going to let us pull back on the extra 5% that's being collected and sliding into the general treasury, a tax rate of 22% of gross wages would still fund our retirement, with 5% of that, or a quarter, going to the general treasury. That's a lot less than the 34% that we're currently paying. So if we change the law and improve public policy and set Social Security benefits equal to what it takes to actually live in retirement, we could cut our tax rate, our effective tax rate, by 35%, from 34% to 22%. That would be a huge savings for all Americans.